Okay, there we are. Our next speaker is one I've been looking forward to, even though he's not on the schedule. This is Thorsten Ludwig. He's from Germany. He's the president of the German Space Energy Association. And he has a master's degree in physics. He works as a research assistant at the Technical University of Berlin. He's been doing research hands-on into medium energy collisions, quantum objects, plasmas, and he's been doing a lot of spectroscopy, which is a word I've always had difficulty with. He founded Benotech, which is a charitable organization to encourage energy research. He did that just a few years ago. And he is also very deeply involved in research on zero-point energy and electrogravitics. And he's going to be updating us on a number of projects that are going on in Germany as we speak. Here's Thorsten Ludwig.
Well, thank you very much. I welcome you all to this extra session. I'm very thankful to the organizers of this conference that it became possible that this session is on. Can we have the slides now? First, I've been here the last 2 years as well to the little bit smaller INE symposia, so quite a few faces are very familiar to me, but there are many new faces also. So I always like to do something new. So this year, I'm going to talk on the German Space Association, where I have become the president last year. And also, I like to update you in the second part of the talk on the latest hotspots in free energy technologies in Europe. So here's again the overview. So about the German Space Association, it's more on strategy and on the aims we have and how we plan to accomplish it and what we are doing. So it's a bit on strategy and politics in the free energy. I hope you're not too bored with it, and it's a little bit connects to the to the roundtable discussions we had the last couple of years, which I always thought were quite interesting. And in the second part, we go into the technologies, and I hope to present you some technologies that you have not heard about or you're not so aware of, so there's something new for you. The German Association for Space Energy was founded in 1981 by Dr. Hans Nieper. Quite a few of you probably know him. And it was nice to hear from Tom Colone that he was started off by one of his conferences back in 1981, which were pretty legendary and big conferences. And the work of the association has been going on since then. And we have charitable status. I was explaining to Mike that in Germany it's very easy to get a charitable status for a research organization. You know, research and cars are the things which are always charitable in Germany. If you do something for poor people or you sell cheap meals or something like this, it's very difficult to get charitable status. They look very closely. But if you say you want to do research and you present the findings to the public and you do like education to the public, immediately you got the charitable status, no problem. So we currently have 300 members, which many of them have academic backgrounds. And the main aim of the organization is to really bring this space energy or free energy or whatever you want to call it, these new energy technologies or devices to the people and to turn effects into market products and to really help the innovations come to the reality. So let us look a little bit more closely how we think we want to accomplish that. What is our strategy, current strategy? So I put way up front, making friends, you know. It's still a bit difficult to go mainstream or go like full force into the media or politics. I have experience with that. It's not so easy. They usually, if it goes straight public, they're all not so keen on being named. But if you have the strategy of just making friends, you know, like in the government, in places where people have power, the referees in magazines or professors and so forth, or people who work in newspapers, if you make them friends just by talking to them, presenting your material, you know, and take your time. And we have very good examples for that. I think I'll go through them quickly, and then I have a more detailed slides afterwards. So making friends is very important. I will speak a little bit more on that. Networking and cooperation, part of that is being here, for example, talking to Hal Fox and keeping contact with Tom Colone, and we always like to receive his email news. And it's very good to and helpful that you guys know what is happening in Europe and we know what is happening here. So I'll go into that in more detail. One of the key things is research, because I still think many of the effects that we see, or if you listen to all the presentations, there's still a lot of work to be done. The only thing I've seen on the whole conference, which is really market ready and has something to do with free energy and not with solar or something else, was a Brown's gas. And it actually doesn't go back to 1940 or 50. It goes back to 1912. The Langmuir welding system was there and so forth. But still, inspiring research is very important. I will go into more detail a bit later. Informing the public and starting and supporting local activities. Okay. And of course, as an organization, we give membership benefits. I mean, we have to keep our members happy too, you know. So again, more on finding friends. Like I said, I think it's one of the key things to spread the news first, like a little bit undercover, you know. Because I have noticed if you sit, for example, on the lunch table with the physics professors where I work, you can discuss these things, you know, very easily, and they are easy about it. And if you talk to them about zero-point energy or even free energy devices, they listen to you, and much the better if you have something to demonstrate. For example, we demonstrated this lifter technology in our lab, and immediately the professor was excited, you know, and said, how does this work, you know? And he really got into thinking about how it works. And every assistant who walked by, he said, can you explain this? You know, explain to me how it works. So by these little things, you make friends. And another example I like to give you is we have a friend who is a member of our organization who is a director in a government institution. So he was able to reach out and ask some people in the field to actually produce like a booklet on free energy devices, which the government will bring out. It's still underway and it's not out yet for various reasons, and I don't want to go into the total details of it, but it should show us that how important it is to have a friend, because once this book is out, it will be another step forward. And already making it, you know, brings things forward. And so the same if you want to have what we see later, if you want to have a real research project, government funded, you need friends. That's how it works. You know, you need someone who's a referee who knows you and who will approve your proposal. And it doesn't work like you write it and you send it in anonymously, you know, without name. And that's very difficult in the science world today, because in, well, I like to go into that in more detail when we talk about the research, you know. But then we can talk a little bit more about how research funding is actually happening in the world today. And I tell you, it's not a really fair business. So we need friends in research institutions because they have resources and they can make measurements, and you don't have to pay for them, and so forth. That's always possible. The referees, we really need them because if you want to publish in a normal paper, well, it's good to know the referees, you know, and to talk to them beforehand about the paper. That's basically how it works. It's not how the public likes to see it, but that's how it works. And young scientists are a really great resource, and quite a few have come to us, and also from Berlin, and they are very interested in doing something in this field, but they are working in normal institutions, and they're kind of waiting till it becomes possible to work in a normal project, where they get paid normal money and so forth, you know. So at the moment in Germany, it's quite difficult. There are only a few people who can really work on free energy devices full time and get paid full for it. But it's good to know people who would like to do it, you know, because once you have the funds, then you need people to work on it too. Okay. So here we got the inspiring research. That means many things, you know. It's, for me, one of the key things that we have to bring more, not just more credibility, but also more excellence and more, more professional work into our research. And once, it's like an exponential curve, you know. Like first you see hardly any movement, you know. For years you're working on this, but I think once it really gets into the open and into the government institutions, and like 10, 20 or 200 groups worldwide are working on it and exchanging through the normal forms of magazines and so forth, well, then you get a total boost of things, you know, and that's basically what we need. Like if you look at the plasma technologies or the zero-point energy stuff, it's all very complicated and difficult. And I think if there would be a real worldwide research effort, then we get forward, and in 5 years maybe, that would be my time frame, if that happens, we would really have market things. I mean, you can always dream it goes faster, but if you look at the reality, things take their time. Okay, so connecting the right people, there are people in all sorts of institutions interested in it, and many people have like a small piece of information. So I see our German association as a pool, as a place where people can meet, and where we try to network, to get the right information to the right people, and so really help to get research projects together that really work, and to get the design research projects that takes a lot of time. I'm personally working on a couple, and to really get professors together and get the ideas together and get the people together to do it, and to write a proposal that you can really bring to the government to get a couple of millions in funds is quite a job. So, and since right now there are no funds to make these proposals, we have to network and have to do it on the side. So helping in getting funds, sponsors, and investors is also part of our aim and our current strategy. And especially the sponsors, I think at this point in time, are very important. We don't look so much for investors. It's good to have an investor, but I think for many effects and technologies at this point, it's better to have a sponsor, because we cannot tell them that in 2 years or in 8 months they will get double the money back. You know, that's just not possible, and I think it's not fair to do that. So then sharing news and findings. Also, one of the key things for me is that's how research works. You know, if you try to keep the findings to yourself, then progress is extremely slow. But if more and more groups and people get together and say, okay, we share this knowledge, that goes a little bit into this open source kind of attitude, how it's done in software as an alternative to this Microsoft. So you've all heard about Linux and how they do it, and there are thousands of programmers out there who contribute time, and they are also getting something back, because if they are expert in a certain field, they get a job in a company who's distributing these, you know. So it's not that it's not good for them as well, but you first have to share if you are in a situations like we are. So the whole science community lives from this sharing. It's quite an important part. And only at a later stage, when things are much more clear, then you can think of having company secrets and things like this. But I think for most effects and technologies at this point, it would be extremely helpful if more and more people share their findings, and then we can really make progress, and we all benefit from that. Well, here also helping and publishing, like I said, the referees, if we have contact and we know someone, then people come to us and they say, well, I have worked on the Tesla car for years, and he was an electric engineer, you know, and he said, where can I publish it? And then we can say, okay, there's this magazine or that magazine, we have contacts, and we can tell them that this is very good work, and then they will publish it. Then keeping up to date worldwide, that's also some effort, and we have to share that locally. So here we go more deeply into networking and cooperation. The exchange of information is a key. Joint research projects, like if one has a resource and another one has another resource, then together you can make the project. If you try to do it alone, it's difficult. Then in Germany, we have to work locally also, and I think I have another slide. Yeah, there's the next point down there is local groups. I'm coming from Berlin, and we have managed to establish a local group there, but there are some other places like Professor Meil, who has already presented. He has also a very nice group and setup down in Freiburg, close to there. And but there are also people in Hamburg and Colone, Munich, and even Wurzburg, who are already working together as a group. And I can only recommend that if you have only small resources, and I learned this word, shoestring budget, you know, like if you are working on such things, then it's good if you have friends in your region and you can share, you know, and you can also meet, you can share information. I mean, all these magazines and books that all cost a lot of money, and so if you get together and share, it boosts your activity. So what we do in Berlin for more than 4 years is that every first Monday we have a meeting. And it started small, but now it's quite big. 50, 60 people are coming every time, and we even get now people from far away who come and like to present there, and so forth. It's a really nice sharing point, and everyone learns a lot. So the next point then is informing the public. We try that with public fairs, with demonstrations, with making seminars, or a fair in Germany. They are quite popular, and for all sorts of things you have large fairgrounds where all the companies present themselves, and it's like part of our history and part of our part of our lifestyle to have fairs for everything. So and many thousands of people come there, and it's a good thing to have a stand and talk about free energy, or best with a demonstration of a lifter or a GEET or something. So then we can organize conferences. Some of you also have been to our conference. 2 years ago we had a very big international conference, and we had smaller ones. It's also a good way to reach the public, like it's happening here. Publishing, we are bringing out some small papers. That's a good way. Then we had a guy coming to us who wanted to make a movie on the water car, you know. So that was a young artist who actually managed to make a 90-minute movie on the water car subject. So he also worked on a very low budget, and he wanted to present it into the Berlin movie fair. He didn't manage to do it, but he managed to make it, and it's ready now, and it's the full story. Someone has a water car, so he got some information from us on the dingo and all these informations, and he made it quite nicely, but then the guy gets killed, of course, and the whole story is quite a good story. Then, of course, what we like to do is to have like these popular science TV shows to get our free energy into that. So that's an aim, but we have to make some more friends and do some more work before we can do that. But it's in the reach. We already know people who know someone who is in charge of it. So I think it will come up sometime. Here's another good example. Unfortunately, it's pretty dark, the pictures. Can you get more brightness into that picture, maybe? What you see here is a young man who came to us, and he had to do a project, a 3-month project, to get into university. You know, that's how it is in Germany. And so he came to us, and we said, yeah, great. Yeah. But it's a good example what can happen, you know. So he came and he was very enthusiastic, and he wanted to work on this water car. So for 3 months we provided him laboratory, we provided him assistance and information and internet access, and all he had to do was work. But he was very, he was a very good boy, and he really worked a lot, and he went after us getting all this information and designed the project. And he actually rebuilt a motor which was supposed to run on water, and we had here a laboratory setup, and for 3-4 months he was really redoing all the things on the internet and trying out acoustics and different waves and all sorts of things, and it's a really good example what can happen, you know. Okay. Here you see another picture which rounds up what I'm saying, what we are doing, and this is on a public fair, and we are demonstrating the lifter, and here you see a lot of people who are standing, interested, you know, and they watch, and then they ask questions, and that's how you start to get to know the people, and you have something to talk about.
What was the lifter?
Huh? Here, the lifter is a technology where you have lift-off with static electricity with kind of high voltage. I think many of you might know this. Okay, now I switch over. You can ask questions later. Now I switch over to the technologies. Here is a list of the technologies. And so the first thing, so aqua pole, what's called, is the very interesting thing about this technology is that it is sold 36,000 times all over Central Europe already, and they give a guarantee for it. And it works without electricity. All that it's just these things which hang from the ceiling, and they solve a big problem. The problem is that on these houses made out of bricks, even here this is a Budapest parliament, so very big houses, they have a big problem. The water rises from the bottom of the building, and it makes the cellars wet. And it can actually destroy the building. So these old churches and not so old houses and old buildings, they all have this problem. And usually what you have to do is you need a lot of energy to get the water out of the walls. So usually what you do is you cut the wall, you put in pieces of metal, and then you apply a lot of heat or a lot of electricity to the wall to drive the water down. So this works totally passive, and here we see how it works. So inside the building, this is what they say. Okay, I'll later tell you what's actually inside, but it's even more simple, okay? So this is how it's, I think, yeah, it's good, yeah. So this is here the problem. It's a capillary problem. The water, if you have a very thin kind of arrangement, then the water is sucked in, called capillary power. And so if you have that sort of water problem, then this will work. If you have a totally different, like you had flooding or something like this, then it's a different problem and it won't work that good. But if you have this sort of problem, then, well, this is just coils. And the actual setup, I'm telling you the actual setup, because if people have been really taking these things apart and they see it's not that complicated what's inside, it's just two spirals inside, okay? A little bit trickly interconnected, and that drives the water down. Okay, and they have actually also done some experiment reversing the thing for drought sort of situations to bring the water up. And it also works. So, and they sell it all over Germany, and it comes from Austria. And it costs quite a lot of money. You have to pay like average about 8,000 US dollars, and they go by the square area, by the area of your house. So for a bigger house they take more. But what they do is they come with full equipment, they take measurement of the water content of your wall, and they give a guarantee, you know, they note down everything, they note down the progress, and so forth. So this is the Aquapole technology, and there are some other companies doing the same thing now called EcoDry and others, but I won't go into that too much. But this is one of the best examples for a machine where I, as a physicist, can say, please don't ask me how it works, you know, because to explain how it works in conventional terms, I don't see how you will do it, you know. I mean, it must be some sort of field, some sort of different action that is happening here. We as free energy scientists, of course, think that's quite interesting, that you can drive water down with a spiral. Actually, you see, what happens is there is a water potential in the wall. You can, this rising water also leads to an electrical potential. And you can drive the water down by reversing it with a battery and forcing the wall on a different potential, putting in a lot of current. You can also drive down the water, but you can also apply these spirals and it reverses automatically and drives it down. So this is, I think, one of the best examples for a technology you can buy today. And I'm not so surprised that we're all looking for this electricity device, you know, we all want the electricity, but what do we got? We got this sort of device, you know, which is useful, and it replaces other devices which use a lot of energy. And we got the Brown's gas, who's doing wonderful new welding things, but it's not the application that we were looking for. We want the black box giving out a lot of current, but we got today these sort of applications. And I think if we wait some more time, also the electricity will come. But today we have these sort of things. Now again, okay, I will first talk about this one because it's a little bit similar. The Graviton is the company who's doing it. And these things here, the picture is not that good, I apologize. They are called jet towers. Now the jet tower is a technology which is based on, and the name jet comes from Egyptian hieroglyphs, which you can find in these in Egypt, and it's a solid state device. What is happening here is you have polished rock, granite, and then you have a metal or another rock of a different material, and you stack them. And this is a metal tube. So, and this is the jet tower. Also, no electricity, no current, no anything. So they have shown in very nice research reports, which took them a lot of money and a lot of time, that you can increase and decrease, depending on the on the setup the activity of bacteria. So they apply it and they sell it to people who have, for example, a lake which is turned bad because of bacteria. You stick these things inside and the lake clears up. The other thing is you want to increase the activity, for example, if you're producing biogas, okay? Then you can also stick them in and you get more gas. So it has applications which actually bring benefit, so people pay for them. Now they are going away from these jet filers because they are difficult to sell, and they are converting their knowledge into an electrical machine with switches and buttons and digital numbers and so forth, because they think it sells better. Basically, we'll do the same thing, but it will be more electrical and it's more compatible with our frame of thinking.
What were the materials again?
Well, this is granite, and then you have metal, for example, a little bit shaped and stacked. So, and you can see them in Egypt too. They had something like this, and you stick them in, and they have like a range of 300 meters or something, 300 yards around them. They are effective, and they have actually shown it in very nice double-blind research papers that it really works.
Can you still buy these in Germany?
Yeah, the company is still active. Yeah, the Graviton. You type in Graviton in Berlin, and Google should find it. If you have any problems, contact me. Okay, now I like to talk about it. I don't know how we're doing time-wise.
You still got 8 minutes.
Okay, then we're doing good. So this is another big and very popular technology. It's basically knowledge, and that's called global scaling. And Dr. Müller in Munich, he's doing it, and it's a very big knowledge with many applications, and there are many people in Germany right now are working on applying it. But let me tell you a little bit about it. I hope I don't take too much of Dan Davidson's speech, because he wanted to talk about it too, but he kind of encouraged me to say a bit more about it, so I put in another slide. So here you got the website. I think they have some things in English too. The Comm is one of the early applications where they managed to have a direct communication, instant communication between Germany and Russia. By the way, Dr. Müller worked 20 years in Russia, in St. Petersburg, before he came back after the sort of collapse of the Russian research institutions. And he brought his knowledge to Germany. And his knowledge is kind of shown here. Basically, what his findings are, and it's not from him originally, but from some other Russian scientists, they found that, for example, if you look at species and you take a ratio of, for example, height and weight, you find that certain ratios are realized in nature and others are not. Like you have breaks in between. And this is symbolized by this yellow, for example. You have here a lot of yellow, and here you have like less, okay? And then you have here more again, and so forth. So that's why it's called global scaling. So you have, he brings it down to like a wave, okay? You have like a wave. This is like the wave of the full universe, and then you break it down further and further, and you always have places where the where you have a wave naught, where you have like 0, and you have a place where there's more. And for example, human beings are realized on this height of amplitude, and here you won't have a species, and so forth. But before I go much more into it, what you can basically do is you can do system optimizing with it. If you understand how your system scales, then you can find the optimal working conditions for it, you know? So this is one of their applications. But the GCOM and the wireless transmission, so Müller claims that he has managed to manipulate this wave. And this wave is kind of everywhere in the universe. Okay, I have this picture here, and unfortunately it's not so easy to see here. But basically, what he claims that he has managed is that if you have noise, for example, even like the background radiation of the universe, this 4K radiation, they have found that if you look at the whole sky, it's anything but isotrope, you know. It's like you have hot spots, you have spots where there's a lot, and you have spots where there's little. And so in any noise, you know how noise is, it's sometimes more and sometimes less. So what he has managed with this, with a technique that Euler in 17 something or 18 something, whenever Euler lived, he had come up with a totally different sort of analyzing noise. And it's basically based on this sort of mathematics, which is like, I don't have the right English term for it, but if anyone can help me with that, it's like an endless fraction.
DNA?
No, it's an endless fraction. Anyone familiar with mathematics? Continuous fractions. Okay. So, and with this sort of mathematics, you can make any number, for example, e or pi, these irrational numbers, you can represent with something like this. This is, for example, e, or this is n2 plus, then a number divided by n plus, and then again. And so it goes endless, okay? There's no end to it. You can make a certain pattern, and you go endless. And with this sort of mathematics, you can make a noise analyze. You can analyze noise with it. And so that's what Müller does, and then he comes up with these sort of things. This is a more easy way of showing it here. And basically what you're doing is you're using fractal technologies, okay? So he has managed a sophisticated way of analyzing noise, and then he finds structure in the noise. And while finding the structure in the noise and being able to manipulate it, he can make wireless transmission without any time from any place in the universe to any other place in the universe. This is what he claims, and he has also done some demonstrations where I have to say are not completely convincing for me, but he also says these public demonstrations that he did, he couldn't make it in such a way that they are absolutely 100% proof, okay? He's also not disclosing all his techniques, but what he's doing is he's giving a lot of seminars and teaching people, and he lets some people have some information. So there is a global scaling association, which is charitable, of course, and they are working all over Germany and trying to apply it to all sorts of different technologies and applications, and we will see what will come out of it, but I wanted to emphasize this because they are kind of a unique thing, and I personally think it's a very interesting technology. I met Dr. Müller personally, and he's a very serious researcher, well-informed, and for example, you can interconnect his findings in the noise with the peer group from Princeton, the Princeton Anomality Research Group, who has also shown that the human mind can influence the noise patterns. So, or random devices, which are a little bit the same, okay? So, if you want more information, go to their website, or if you have any problems reaching them, you can come to me and ask, but it's a very deep subject where some people know a lot more than I do, but I think it's very interesting, and that's why I wanted to share it here. Okay. Another thing I like to mention, I don't have a picture unfortunately, is is a man named Wirth, and he's been around in Germany for 20 years in the scene, and he's having a purely mechanical device. And to say roughly what happens is you have a big wheel, and then you have smaller wheels on the side, and on the smaller wheels you have weights, and these weights can be changed by another wheel. So you have a control, and you have like gears, and one gear is driving the big wheel, and then you have, if you turn the small wheel against the big wheel, you can change the position of the weights. And you can apply by applying very little force, you can get this wheel into tremendous speeds. So he claims that he has managed to make a over-unity device. And like I said, he's been around for 20 years. The good thing about it is they are now making a transmission on that basis, and they are building it into wind generators. And in Germany, there are wind generators all over because the government has a law that if you put up a wind generator, the electric company has to buy this electricity off from you for a price that will actually let you repay all your costs that you ever had for this machine. So they are all over Germany, there are these windmills. So if you have a transmission which kind of enhances the power output, then you can immediately make money. So they're having a scaling problem, they say. They say they have a machine which is this big and it works, but if they're trying to make it bigger, it won't work anymore. So then they are catching up with these global scaling people, and they say, of course, if it's the different, if you don't have the right scale, then it won't work anymore. So you need us to get the right scale. So to be honest, there is a little bit of a problem. He has, he's matching up with some people who are in the financial business and trying to raise money in a way which is not so nice, but it's not that bad too. So just before you sign anything, take a second look. Another thing I like to share with you is some work that a colleague of mine is doing in the Technical University of Berlin, and that is here we have he did a work. He was shooting deuterium atoms into a palladium where there's also deuterium, and he has shown in his work very clearly that that it is the fusion of the two deuterium is different if one is in a palladium lattice. That is, I think, quite an important work, which shows that the cold fusion very well can work. It's not like a direct proof, but it's a clear proof that it matters if the deuterium atom is in the metal or is it not in the metal. And to all of you who think that, is that something special? Yes, it is, because usually this fusion of two nuclei, it shouldn't matter what the electrons do outside, because they are just very little energy compared to the nuclei, and that's like nuclear physics, and the other is atomic physics, which is like chemistry, So it's a totally different story, and it's quite new, and that's why he had to bring a lot of proof before they accepted his thesis that the arrangement of the electron around the deuterium actually changes the fusion rates. So he is doing, okay.
If we could just pause real quick, let me just pop another tape.
Okay. So let me continue with this special work. So the name in physics for this is that what he's doing is he's working on the sub-coulomb level fusion. So that means he accelerates the deuteriums only to a small speed, like 50,000 electron volts, which is far less than what they need to actually fuse directly. You need a couple of million electron volts for that. So then what you need is a tunneling effect from the quantum mechanics, and this sort of setup seems to be sensitive of what happens on the electron level around it. Okay, so anyone who is really interested in that subject, he should take a hold of this thesis. I think it's a good example for networking because how it happened, you know, one journalist came to me and he was asking about this and that, and he wanted to make a free energy article, some young man, and he's making, he's producing some clips for radio stations that do science stuff. So, and then, by the way, I told him about this thesis, and then, because he was doing something on cold fusion, he actually got a hold of this Dr. Huke, and he has already connected him with Japan and Italy, and they're all happy to hear about this work, you know, because what happens is if you cannot, in our community, the problem is information exchange. You know, we don't have that many very good scientific publications. You know, so of course he published it in the paper where they publish. And in physics, we have so many journals. You know, it's not that easy to like that. I don't know, 20, 50 main journals, and you might think Physical Review is the only one, but by far it's not, you know. And it's actually, even for mainstream, difficult to get in there, you know, and we as Europeans, we don't like it that much because they don't like us that much, you know. They don't, yeah, it's difficult to get in. So we go to other journals, you know, like we have the Journal of Physics, which comes from England, you know, it's more easy, you know. And these people, again, they have their own journal where it's easy to get in, where they like their publications, you know. But those people in Japan or in Italy who are working on cold fusion, they are not reading this magazine where he published, you know, so they have never heard about it. And it's actually, I think, quite an important work for that community. Okay, so I think it's a good example for what can happen. And I think these are the last two technologies I like to talk about. Hurricane in a bottle is from Mr. Schatz. He's somewhat close to Berlin. He's working for 10, 15 years on Vortex, on a special Vortex technology. Very simply saying, it's a wind generator that doesn't need wind. You just can put it in any room, and you just have to kind of kick it off a little bit. And then what happens is it draws in the air by itself, and it has a big area on the bottom, and then some ways of bringing this torque into a smaller region. And he claims that he has managed to tap into some vortex technology. So, and he refeeds his air back down, and he observes great cooling in the middle. So that's why he says it's a hurricane, or it's a tornado in a bottle. And I think he's doing very good work. Of course, he also needs more funding, and he has all sorts of problems at the moment. But I think it's one of the most promising technologies. Unfortunately, no pictures here, but if you're interested, I can hook you up with, I don't know if he has a good website, but there are some good pictures about his machine, and he has some good films about his machine. Unfortunately, I don't have them with me. The last thing, which has nothing to do, or not much to do, with free energy, but it's a good innovative technology, is car which just run on air. And basically, it's no magic. You have a tank for pressured air, but the thing which this company in France claims, and has not really proven, but they have a car nearly market ready, which you can put compressed air in. You can have a small compressor with you too, if you like, and you have a range of about 220 kilometers. Now, good electric car only has at the moment a range of about 100 kilometers. And to have a range of 200 kilometers or 250, like 160, 170 miles instead of 70 miles, is much better. You know, from our Binotech, we have an electric car, and if you have an electric car which has a range of 120 kilometers, you really have to plan well how you make your trips. You know, because you go,
No getting lost.
and it takes hours to recharge. So you really have to plan. But if you have this air car, it's much easier. You know, you bring in the air much faster, and so you don't. Even if you can get it at many gas stations even. So if it's running really good, and they have a problem in the winter, for various reasons with and so they first try to sell it in southern France, where they don't have such a big winter problem. Yeah, that's what happens if you want to sell something to the public, and then it has to work like in normal conditions everywhere.
So let me see, you buy the electric car for your children, yes?
But that concept is to sell, not to sell the cars, but to sell the whole manufacturing plant. You know, so if you're interested in buying a small manufacturing plant, get together with these people. They're nearly market ready for those who are interested in products. It's
$8 million?
Huh?
Isn't it only $8 million for the whole plant?
I don't know anything about their pricing, but they're good people. You know, you can get in touch with them. And okay, thank you very much for your attention. I'm ready to take questions.
Based on our time frame, we have time for only about one question on the tape, and then afterward, Dr. Ludwig will be happy to entertain any questions. Do we have one or two very important questions, or can we adjourn?
Do you accept others from other countries in your organization?
Yeah, we do. Yes. We actually have some, but most of our publications and everything is in German, so we attract more the German-speaking people at this point in time. But yeah, there's no restriction. But I know we even have someone in South America who's a member. I think it's Argentina. Yeah.
Anyone else? One other one. The lady by the staircase, please. Could you speak up real loud? Or sir. I can't see from here. I see the long hair, but that doesn't mean anything, I guess, nowadays.
Any news on the TeslaTech from here? Any progress?
Well, progress. Well, the one who invented it, he has died, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, which doesn't help. And but as far as I know, the community hasn't changed its policy to not disclose the information. So, no, there's no news. The only news is that they had a symposia this year. I didn't attend it, but another person from Berlin, he has done some work. So there's still people who try to rebuild it, and there's ever-growing number of theories how it works. Even here I encountered a few new ones. So, but that doesn't really help, I think.
Any other questions?
Have they taken themselves off the grid yet?
Who?
The Swiss group.
I heard they have not, but I can't tell you anything about it. No. But I was talking to someone the other day, and I said, because I don't know who it was, and they said, oh, this testatica, and then I just told them, you know, if it's closer to you, you think it is less important. You know, like for us, the testatica is not something so special and magical. You know, it's a group who doesn't disclose it, and if it works or not, you don't really know. You know, so, I mean, it's like the Moray device. We probably think more of the Moray device than we think of the testatica, because it's more far away, or Tesla. You know. Okay, pleasure.